Today we are writing off and collecting uncollectible accounts receivable. So we're going to work on how we can write off the debt that they had. And then if someone, after we wrote them off, decides to pay us, what do we do with that money? How do we reconcile that money? Canceling the balance on the customer's account because the customer does not pay is writing off the account. So on January 25th, we wrote off Edmonds Hospital's past due account, uncollectible of $639.88. The memo, and these are usually going to come through memos that we justify it through, is memo 58. And so their balance and let me start with the right thing first. The allowances is going to be deducted. We're going to lower it because we have to deduct how much of it we had the balance previous that we had, and we took out some of the money to pay for that. The accounts receivable is also going to lower. The amount of money we have in the accounts receivable is going to lower. And the accounts receivable ledger is also going to lower. So we have to take and actually go into Edmonds Hospital, because remember, that was in a separate little statement, so that we remember, as we're doing with corporate, we have a big whole picture, and then we have the smaller actual statement for that one hospital. So we have to go into the accounts receivable ledger and also deduct to where he has a new zero balance for Edmonds Hospital. So how does this look on our general journal? The first line, our debit line, is going to be the allowances for uncollectible accounts. We're going to put our memo number, and we are going to put a debit for that amount. We're also going to put accounts receivable / Edmonds Hospital, because we're going to refer to two different accounts. We have the big account, and then the subledger of Edmonds Hospital. And since we have two different ones, we're going to have that diagonal line so we can reference, after we post it, to two different accounts. So now we're going to post it to the accounts. So the accounts receivable is going to receive a credit of $639.88, and so we are opposite columns going to subtract. The accounts allowance for uncollectible accounts is going to have a debit, and they're in opposite lines, so we are going to subtract. And then when we go into Edmonds Hospital, we're writing off, and you're going to write written off. And again, the post reference is going back to the general, page 16. And we're writing off the full amount of the account. They now have a zero balance because we wrote it off. So up here on the post references, this is the account numbers. We are going to list the green page, the major accounts first, and then on this one we have the subledger of 120. And the date is all going with the 25th. So what happens if we need to reopen an account that was previously written off? So we previously just wrote off Edmonds Hospital. We said they're not going to pay us. We're going to write off the debt. So they have now sent us a check. So our accounts receivable has had an increase. That is going to be a debit of that amount. Our allowance for uncollectible accounts is also going to get an increase because we're going to add back into that balance what we just took out. And so that's on the credit side. And the accounts receivable ledger is going to have a new balance of the $639. So accounts receivable and the Edmonds Hospital, both of those are the debits. This is from the memo 71, and the receipt $695. And the credit is over here. We put the date, put the account title, put the memorandum number, put the diagonal line because we are going to be splitting that account information. We're going to have the subledger referenced as well in that one. The debit amount, the account title for your credit, and the credit amount. So again, we're going back and we're going to see how this looks. Recording the cash. So we need to record the cash now. This is where the receipt's going to come into play. So the accounts receivable and cash are the opposite accounts. So the accounts receivable is going to go down. The cash is going to go up. And the accounts receivable ledger is going to receive a credit as well. So now there's going to be a new balance of that $0. So that first one was just moving it back over into their ledger. Now we're actually going to say, okay, now the cash is there. We need to take and get it credited to their account. So on the cash receipts journal, we are going to do the receipt R, $6.95. Again, refer to our date and the customer name. And then we'll give them a credit and the cash debit. And then we'll post those to all the different accounts. And so we have our accounts receivable Edmonds Hospital credit, the allowance for uncollectible accounts. This is what we saw earlier. And we had the cash receipts journal down here. Those are what we just created. Now we're going to post this information into the individual ledgers. And so the accounts receivable on the 9th is going to have a debit from here. And a credit is going to go to your allowance for uncollectible accounts. There is also a debit going to go down to reopen. You see how we wrote it as reopen the account. So where we normally don't write anything besides balance, we have a written off line and we have a reopen account line. Or it doesn't say account, just reopen. And we have now put the money back in there saying, okay, yes, you still owe us this amount. Now, we are going to post from the cash receipts journal. So the cash receipts say the accounts receivable credit, so we need to give them a credit for the amount we came in. And the cash will get a debit. Oh, sorry, I jumped ahead. I didn't mean to go back. Well, the allowance for uncollectible accounts is debited when the customer is written off. To balance out the account is an actual uncollectible account, no longer estimated amount. Does the book value of the accounts receivable differ before and after writing off the amount? The book value is the same because the amount deducted from the accounts receivable and allowances. Why is a customer account reopened after the amount is amount is paid after being previously written off? Because we want to give them an accurate credit history. We want to record what they've done. So now they are now in good standing with us. It may be where we can do business again and let them have an accounts receivable. It may still not, depending on whether we want to run that risk. So let's go ahead and look at how this looks as we are posting this into our journalized entry. So first we're going to journalize it. So on the 4th, let me move this guy so I can see him. We are going to write off the allowance for uncollectible accounts. What did I misspell? Oh, but 2 L's, 3 L's. And this is from our memo 145. And this is going to be our debit of $495 or $494. And the account size is going to go to, we're going to actually have this split. accounts receivable. And Mellon Corp. Keep wanting to give them $4.95. And here we'll have the split, but we're not going to get to post it with the split just, or excuse me, I'm not even in the right spot. Here we're going to have the split, but I can't post it with the split just yet. So the next thing is on November 15th, we're going to write off as well Horn Company. So it's going to be the same two things. Except for on the second one, instead of Mellon Corp, we are going to put Horn Co. And this is in reference to with memo 147. And the amount we're going to write off of their accounts is $15.48 and 0 cents. So now we get to December. And Mellon Corp pays off their entire balance. And so we are going to be pulling from those two accounts first, and this is going to be dealing with, on this page, we're going to reference our memos. On the cash payments journal, we will write in the receipts. And they paid off their full balance, so $4.94. And the allowance for uncollectible accounts is going to be our credit, $4.94. Because we got to write off what we just did. Or not write off, but reopen what we just closed. On the 14th, we're going to write off another one. So we're going to write off Fisher Industries, past due debt, with the memo 161. And so when we're writing off, the uncollectible accounts goes first, and when we're reopening for them to pay it off, it goes second. And they are 1360, and that was memo 161. And this was Fisher. And 1360. And Horn Company on the 16th sends us a check. And so we are going to be doing the accounts receivable first because we received money from them. And this is Horn Co. And this is going to be referenced for here. We're looking at the memo 169. And they paid all of it off, so that's the $15.48. And then we're going to do the allowance for uncollectible accounts second, because we got to get that money put back over there that we didn't end up needing. And so there it goes. Now we're going to do our cash receipts journal. So where did we receive cash from? Well, we received cash. The two times we received cash was on the 8th and the 16th. So on the 8th, we received money from, oops, I need to put December. We received money from the Mellon Corp. Spread the period. And the document number is going to be your receipt because we're doing the cash payments journal, 341. And we receive an accounts payable credit of 494. And then we have, move this guy out of the way, a cash debit of 494. And then the other one was on the 16th. We received money from Hornco. And this is receipt 349. And they paid us $15.48. Greater step. And now we're just going to post those into the general ledgers. We're going to post the entries. So, Fisher Industries, what happened with Fisher? Fisher on the 14th had a credit of $13.60, meaning their total down to zero because we wrote off their balance. And so we need to come over here and say, oh, sorry, written what am I spelling wrong? Next, we're going to go to Hornco. And Hornco has a lot of things that happened. So if we look back up here, first thing that happened to them was on the 15th. We're writing off the amounts. And so on November 15th, oh, and I forgot to post-reference that. That went from General 15 on the previous one. And we're going to put a credit for the amount, giving us a zero balance. Next, we need to move the money back into their account to reopen the account on December 8th. No, December 16th. That was for Horn Company. Yeah, Horn Company was 16th. We need to reopen account. And G15 is again the reference. And so this time, we're putting the money back over as a debit, and they now have a debit balance of $15.48. Now, on the same date, we need to post the cash that we received from them, and this is just the payment, so there's nothing that goes there. And this came from our cash receipts journal, page 24, and we need to put a $15.48 because we're trying to give them back the credit for what they did, and get zero. And so we're going to do the same idea for Mellon account. So as you see here, we've done it. And then one thing I noticed on the Horn Company is actually put in November here, and you didn't need the November. And so now we're going to do the accounts receivable. There's going to be a lot of them here, so I'm going to show you how we do it on a few of them, and then we'll pause it and let you see it and fill in from there. So on the 4th, from Journal 15, we received a credit for $494. Because we were writing off that amount, we lower the amount, and that gives us $34,654.85. And then on the 15th, again, another written off portion from G15. This time it was $15.48 and 0 cents, and that brings us to $33,106.85. And then this will be the last one I'm going to show you, and then I'll pause it and let you just come and see at the end, December 8th. This is where we received cash from, I believe it was Melancope, and they paid us the amount of $4.94. And so we need to add that back in. That's now going to add back in, and our account balance is going to go up in this point. So check out and make sure that you've posted all of these correctly. Now let's look at the allowance for uncollectible accounts. We're going to start on November 4th. Is the first time that account was used. And we have from Journal 15. And we received a debit of $4.94. And that's going to bring our balance to $2,664.47. On November 15th, we're again writing off the amounts. And that is going to give us from Journal 15 again. And we have the $1,548.00. That brings the total of that account to $1,116.47. And then on December 8th, from Journal 15, page 15, we have a credit because some money came in. We had to take it back out, and so we're going to add back into that balance. And we end up at $16.10.47. Go ahead and check it at the end. And so you should have ended up with it looking like this. Oops, I'm sorry, wrong spot. You should have had it look like this at the end. And I did see why that was written in red. Evidently, the computer version does not want us to write that information in, so just leave it blank. And on papers, it's typically written in. Do the next one.